Well, Ms. Moody, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
You sued the Trump Organization over the Trump Tower debacle in Tampa.
A decade ago, my family had a small interest in a condominium. A long time ago, nothing to do with this campaign, absolutely nothing to do with partisan politics.
Do you believe still the president misrepresented himself in that Trump Tower deal by saying he had a substantial stake in it when in fact he did not? He was just selling the use of his name?
Well, you know, that was litigation that was resolved a long time ago. Again, it has absolutely nothing to do with this process.
I get that. But do you think the president misrepresented himself in that case?
I can tell you that the matter was resolved, and so I'm focused on this race, what I can do as Attorney General, what I bring to this race.
Are there any policy points in which you differ with President Trump?
Well, you know, I am a conservative Republican. I have been since college. We see eye to eye on many issues, and I support him and what he's trying to accomplish as president.
So there are no policy points in which you differ with President Trump?
I am committed to ensuring that we approach government in a way that respects the rule of law.
I get that. I'm trying to figure out if you line up entirely with President Trump or if there are key policy points in which you differ.
Well, there are policy points that he is advocating for that I strongly support.
Are there any in which you differ?
I support the president and what he's trying to accomplish in Washington.
He said take guns first, due process second. Are you with him on that?
I believe that we have to first and foremost respect the ideals that this country was founded on, and first and foremost we have to protect the liberties and rights of citizens. I don't believe the way to ensure that we prevent tragedies from happening is first encroach upon people's rights. I believe that it's going to be a lot harder than that.
Ms. Moody, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Representative White, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with experience. Yes or no, have you ever prosecuted a case?
I have never been a professional prosecutor.
Have you ever tried a jury trial?
It's not necessary to be the Attorney General to have ever completed a jury trial.
And have you argued a motion in court?
It's irrelevant. That's one of those kind of questions that it's not a requirement to be an effective Attorney General.
Have you taken a deposition?
Look, all of these questions are related to things that are irrelevant to being Attorney General. The number one job of Attorney General is defending the Constitution and the rule of law.
What's your take on the state's strategy in suing Georgia in the water war over the Apalachicola Bay? Did the state make the right decision or the wrong decision in suing Georgia?
The state absolutely made the correct decision. It has been an expensive, long road, but I'll tell you, it is the right battle that we have to fight.
Some of the oyster fishermen have said the strategy in their mind should have been going after the Corps of Engineers, the federal government, and Congress, because it directs the flow of water as opposed to the state government, which the special master initially ruled in agreement with that, saying that we sued the wrong people.
Well, we'll see. As Attorney General, we'll take a look at every aspect of that strategy. We'll talk to all of the attorneys who have been handling those cases and the details of them.
You called your opponent a lifelong Democrat when she's been a Republican for about 20 years.
My opponent registers as a Democrat, and then later, sometime in law school, later in life, not exactly sure when, switched to be a registered Republican.
But can't everything you just said also apply to President Trump? Because he, 2 years ago, said he identified more with Democrats and gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to Democrats who did the very same things that you oppose today, and he does today.
President Donald Trump is doing a fantastic job.
Representative White, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for your time.
Well, Mr. DeSantis, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
Let's start with the Me Too movement and violence against women. First off, explain why you opposed efforts to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act in Congress.
There was a provision in there that would strip American citizens of the Bill of Rights and allow them to be tried in Indian court. I don't think you can do that consistent with the Constitution. So obviously I'm supportive of efforts to fortify local and state law enforcement to be able to fight violence against women, but I don't think you can put an American citizen in an Indian court. So I objected on that ground.
Your opponents have accused you of supporting racists. You have repeatedly rejected racists. Based on that alone, in your view, is that enough for voters to disavow your opponents?
So they're trying to smear me unfairly, obviously, and without fact, but that's all they got. People are sick of being told, oh, you're a racist because you disagree with left-wing policies. It's nonsense.
Your own running mate, as you know, also accused President Trump of supporting the KKK, supporting the Ku Klux Klan, calling him the biggest con man in America.
She was supporting Senator Rubio at the time. I don't really do social media, but I know a lot of people have said things and popped off. Sometimes you wish you could have it back. And so I think that Jeanette is somebody that was very much supportive of Marco, who's a friend of hers and obviously pride of the Cuban community. And that's just the way it goes. So.
And I know you think Representative Nunes is very capable and very smart and very talented, but I also asked you a couple of years ago if Florida even needs a lieutenant governor. At the time you said you didn't know. We went more than a year without a lieutenant governor. Do we need a lieutenant governor?
You know, that's, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
But now, does Florida need a lieutenant governor?
Well, look, I mean, I think at that time I was running against somebody who, potentially running against somebody who was serving the position, so there was a little bit of a political back and forth, tongue in cheek. But I think at the end of the day, having a lieutenant governor who's actively engaged in the administration, I think is important, and I want Jeanette to be actively engaged. She will be an impact player.
Mr. DeSantis, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And tonight is Mayor Gillum's turn. Please welcome Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, candidate for governor, running in the Democratic race. Your second time in the hot seat. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's great to be here with you, man. Second time in the hot seat. You're right.
I want to hear your specific plan for fighting sexual harassment in the Florida legislature. What specifically would or could you change given the chance?
There ought to be a set-aside committee chaired, and I think a bipartisan one, quite frankly, where folks are able to make sure that those complaints are followed up with.
Meanwhile, your city is also under a separate FBI investigation looking into possible corruption. Is there a lapse in management that could have caused that to happen?
While we don't know all the details to this particular investigation, what I can tell you is that my 15 years of service in the Tallahassee City Commission, we haven't had an elected official so much as found accountable or guilty of an ethics violation, let alone a criminal probe.
And 2 points, you say you're not the target of the probe. 2, you don't specifically run the city. You're not a strong mayor as we have in Tampa or St. Pete.
This is true.
That argument, though, cuts both ways. If you're not the strong mayor and you're not running the city, what qualifies you to run the entire state of Florida?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm not involved in the important decision-making of our city government.
Would you cut taxes anywhere, provide any form of tax relief? And if so, specifically, what would it be?
I will tell you, I mean, just judge me by my example. In Tallahassee, we did cut the business licensing fee.
Extend that to leadership of the state.
Yeah.
Where would you provide tax relief? What specifically would you cut?
Well, I will tell you, tax relief and the way that it has been undertaken in this state has been wholly unnecessary, and in my opinion, has been completely in the wrong direction.
So under Governor Gillum, there would be no tax cuts.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then I'm going to take a third swing at it.
Yeah.
Specific tax cuts that you would deliver to the people of Florida.
So what I would say is that the tax cuts that we've experienced have been ill applied and ill appropriated. If there are instances and circumstances such as tax-free holidays for folks to go shopping and equip their kids with the kind of attire that they need to get back to school, that's the kind of relief that I'm in favor of.
Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, candidate for governor. Thank you for your time.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, tonight I'd like to host state leaders for Profiles in Courage, but courage is often in short supply in the halls of power. So instead, we're going to profile the hardworking people all across Florida who have tried to drain the swamp for years.
People think that I should be over it. I can never be over the death of my son.
Isabel Castellanos' son died in a boating crash, and when she asked the legislature to beef up the boating safety laws, she discovered who has the real clout.
You talk to one and they'll say, you're fighting the boating industry. We need money for the lobbyists to fight against the boating industry.
They've said this?
Yeah, it's all about money. It's all about power.
Now, she did convince lawmakers to pass a new law requiring boater safety classes. But after the photo ops, after she left town, they watered it down.
Now you gave me a surprise that things have changed. It's okay. I'm glad you did, because you opened up my eyes, something that's so simple, and yet now they washed it down.
And would you believe the state passed a law promoting healthy food and school lunches that also happened to weaken protections for fire victims? The legislature passed a law that protects a negligent contractor, if there's negligence, from the victims?
That's exactly right.
Last year, the victims of fires that burned through the town of East Point learned about this one a little too late.
The people better stand up and notice that you don't have the protection that you think you do.
I mean, we worked our butt off for what we have. And now we just, hanging by a thread.
And did we mention the affordable housing crisis? Florida happens to have this dedicated fund to build affordable houses and help struggling families and seniors buy or fix their homes. But this year, the House leaders once again quietly raided it, sweeping out $125 million from it to pay for their own pet projects.
We know the politicians have other things to think about too. It's not just housing.
It's campaign donations.
Right.
And it's the PAC money.
Exactly. So many things they have to worry about.
Re-election.
They
also have to worry about climbing the ranks of leadership, raising more money. In state politics, this is what you get. And in the coming rounds, we'll moderate a series of discussions and track the action and inaction in state government to big money as we continue to shine the light on money, power, and politics.